Okay, yeah. So let's talk about the patch notes. Early access hotfix number 6. The biggest pieces of information that are in here, and I haven't even read through all of them. I only saw like the first couple of bullet points, and then people like screaming about how rogues are dead. The biggest changes are the new season is starting on Monday. So today is the 22nd of August, which is Tuesday. That means the 28th of August, the game is wiping. They are completely wiping the game. Everyone starts over. Clean slate, brand new. All of the characters are deleted. All your inventory is deleted. All of your gold no longer exists. Your levels are gone. Everything is gone. Game starts over. Fresh, clean slate. Season 1 begins on Monday. Okay? Nothing is kept. Everything goes bye-bye. So, I guess F all the guys that bought gold. Everybody that exploited their way into riches and whatnot. All of those things that people had taken advantage of and did not get, I guess, overtly punished for. Now all of that goes to the wayside. Congrats to everybody that decided that they were going to pay some gold sellers. I don't really know, but whatever. Doesn't really matter. So first early access wipe will be held next Monday. The other piece is that they are giving us a character slot. So now that we have 8 playable character classes, then they're giving us an 8th character slot. So now we don't have to delete a character class in order to be able to play one, right? And what I've always said is with the changes, and I know that maybe like we as players have become like super jaded because it seems as though game devs don't listen to the suggestions that we give or the wishes that we wish we had because of quality of life or balancing changes or whatever. Iron Mace has not ever struck me that way. It feels as though, to me, at the very least, which is kind of like a breath of fresh air, because I've been jaded myself by a lot of devs that don't seem like they listen. Iron Mace apparently seems as though they are listening, and they are listening a lot. So I will give them credit that for the changes that they're making, it seems as though they're trying to be very in tune with what the wishes of the player base are. Like when everybody was screaming that they wanted a solo dungeon, they gave them a solo dungeon. When everybody said that they wanted a character slot, for instance, they gave a character slot. It seems as though they're listening. So, like I said, it seems as though, like, historically, we as gamers have been jaded a lot, and not trying to soapbox, but it feels as though they're listening, and I feel like they deserve a little bit of credit for that. That's all. Not that I'm trying to fangirl. I'm just saying it seems like they're doing a good job with paying attention to what the player base is asking for. Players in a match or in-game will have 30 minutes to complete. The patch is going on right now. It started at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. It's now 1:58 p.m. Eastern. First early access wipe. All character levels, items, gold, and skills will be reset. Bluestone shards will never be reset, so you don't have to worry about your Bluestone shard progression. What they are doing, though, the shard progression in terms of like the shards that you've earned doesn't get reset, but the shard progression does. So you start off at level 0 on your shard progression, which means that Bluestone shards that you are earning get earned faster because it starts off at 25 XP and then goes to 50 and then 100 and then 200. So let's say you're working on shard number 4 and you need 200 XP or whatever, survival XP in order to be able to get your next one. That gets reset to 25 per notes that Terry put out when the game went live originally. Triumph levels will not be reset this time and will only be reset at the start of the official seasons. So apparently it doesn't count for this one. So I guess our Bluestone shard progression is going to be progressed at the level that it's progressed. So they're not taking the shards away, but I guess they're not resetting our XP, even though this is a season 1. I don't know. That seems confusing to me. A new early access leaderboard will start shortly after the wipe once things have stabilized. So I guess this isn't technically season 1, although they are resetting it for the start of a new season. It's confusing. That seems confusing, but whatever. Okay, additional character slot has been added, so you can create at least one of each class now. Big ask and responded. Currency used to unlock classes has been returned, so they're refunding the 5 Bluestone shards or Redstone shards, whatever people had spent on the character classes. They are going to be refunded back to you. So for people that haven't really spent any Bluestone shards on anything in game, that means that you'll have enough, probably after playing for a little while, to be able to buy the red skeleton skin if you really wanted to. Game time has been slightly increased for the normal Inferno map. So, and game time has been increased for all high roller maps. One of the, again, larger complaints that people have had is that on the Inferno level difficulty, when you go down to Hell, and on the high roller side of things, the timer is too fast. The zone closes too quickly. You don't have enough time to be able to clear, NPC packs, whatever, get past the enemies in order to be able to move into the next area, so that way you can progress toward the escape portal. It feels as though people are getting choked out because they just, they don't have the damage or whatever reason. They get into fights with other players, and then they end up in the storm and they die from the tick damage. So not having to be forcibly pushed into those rooms as fast is always good. We've been saying for a long time that they needed to add a couple of minutes onto this. So it'll be interesting to see what the timer ends up looking like once you get into High Roller and the Inferno difficulties now. Added an additional blue portal to the Death Swarm. Closing times have been modified to close slower for the Goblin Cave. So Goblin Cave has had, what, 5 survival portals? 4? Yeah, so they're adding a fifth blue portal, and they're slowing the timer on normal Goblin as well, which is kind of cool. I'm cool with that. I feel like that actually could create some much more dynamic and involved gameplay between players. You know, it's kind of a rarity where you end up in a situation where there's 2 or 3 players by the end, like kind of fighting over like that last circle area. So giving people a little bit more time to work their way through the dungeon again, especially in normal Goblin, because the solo dungeon, the Goblin Cave, the solo dungeon is like Trailer Park Hobo fights. You go in with like kind of whatever, and you try to figure it out. Most people don't go into normal Goblin with like decent-ish gear. It's usually just like whatever they've been amassing for the last like 4, 5, 6 runs, and you kind of just go in and make the best of it. See whatever you can do with like just rando stuff that you pick up. At least that's how I've been playing it, and it's been a ton of fun. But you end up again like pushed because you end up in like that one main like first floor level room with all of the flying bugs and like 7 different skeletons, and then like a skeletal champion or the skeletal mage in the middle. Working your way just through like that room alone is going to take like 7-8 minutes by itself, just picking that room apart. Or the one goblin room that has the single goblin caster and like the 8 or 10 goblins around the outside edge of that room. That room is like that room could take you the entire run just to clean out the NPCs. So when you're by yourself and you end up in rooms like that, the circle again forcing you through usually ends up putting people that don't work very efficiently into a position where they either have to do all the killing and then they have to move, or they end up really behind the ball and they have to like try and rush through and get to the door before everything murders them. And that is rough when you kind of just failed the RNG check, but not necessarily the skill check. You know what I'm saying? So I'm cool with this. Shrine of Protection's physical damage reduction buff has been reduced from 30 to 15%. Probably something that they saw. You know, I'm fine with this too, because the physical damage reduction when it gets stacked up is just OP. There's a lot of physical damage reduction nerfs that happened in these patch notes that I can see just like from grazing it here. I die in that room all the time. Yeah, dude, a lot of people do. The classes that do really well in that room are like warlocks that use Hellfire, because they'll run around like the Pied Piper and they get everybody like running in behind them like a giant line, and then they just like get a good enough headroom in front of them. They get a good enough of a head start and they turn around with Hellfire prepped, and then they fire through the line and watch everything like cave, right? Everybody falls like dominoes. Anybody else, they kind of got to like work their way through, and if you don't get there early, you know what I mean? Pots and crates give a little bit of XP when broken instead of 0 XP. Again, clerics rejoice. Slow hands, bros. Let's go, baby. Clerics and wizards are so happy right now that the bards and rangers and rogues of the group aren't just opening all the chests with their fast AF hands, getting all the experience. Right? Quality of life update. I want to show you this. Hang on one second. I'm gonna pull this and I'm gonna show it to you. This was a note that I sent to Terry, okay, about like a couple of issues that I had. All right, at the bottom, silver coin stacking. The ratio of treasure or currency conversion to gold pieces 3-to-1, but the silver coins only stack to 25. Could we get stacks of 30 so the stacks evenly convert to 10 stacks of gold, or even 15 if the idea is for silver to take up more space than the gold? I sent this to him yesterday at 10 in the morning. And then we go back over here, all right? And we got a little QOL update. Silver coins now stacked at 30 instead of 25 per slot. We did it. No more OCD, like losing your damn mind over how it doesn't evenly stack. Right? Just a little bit of love for the homies, you know? And I put in a thing saying that we needed to have an 8th character slot too. That's been something that's been asked by like everybody for like ever since the game came out. But armor rating curve has been modified and slightly flattened at the very high range. So the max armor like physical damage reduction value that anyone could get would be like if you were on a fighter or on a cleric, if you had certain buffs running at a time, you could get a fighter to 92% damage reduction. And there's like clips of Barbs with a two-hander like trying to cleave a fighter in the head with a two-hander, and the fighter's just sitting there like oof and taking like near no damage. So this is huge because them flattening off the armor rating curve is good. That's very good. Having diminishing returns on the armor rating curve is good. Physical damage reduction now has a hard cap of 85%. You can't get higher than 85%. What you'll probably end up seeing people try to do is get as close to the cap as they possibly can, passively, or what they will do is they're going to try and go like meta math on it, and they're going to min-max the shit out of it and try and figure out exactly how much armor they need to have to be like right at the cusp, so that when they blow cooldowns, it'll be at the cap, right? It'll probably be taken one of either one of those two ways. But this is good because this actually allows for people to have some damage pass through. There's also a lot of love in here for Rangers, but we'll get to that in a minute. Rogue's double jump. So this is where the Rogue stuff starts, and the chat collectively loses its mind. Rogue's double jump has been modified to apply a temporary movement speed reduction upon landing. Now, this is something that was rumored for the last like week or so because double jump and the amount of movement that it gives rogues when they double jump is something that people had been complaining about. The maximum height of the double jump has also been slightly reduced, probably because they're able to get into places that the devs didn't want them getting into, would be my guess. This is something that I think was coming, right? Like, I don't think anybody should be surprised by that modification at all. Because when they added double jump to the game, it became like double jump memes. Rogues were getting up into the skybox. They were getting on roofs and shit that they shouldn't have been able to get on top of. Getting on top of walls and stuff where people are just like, what the hell? Like, you're kind of just like staring at these silhouettes like up in the fucking distance. Like, how the hell? Why are you even up there? This is ridiculous, you know? So the temporary speed reduction upon landing should not surprise anybody that plays a rogue main at all. They're the most mobile of any class in the game. They needed, no offense, I'm not trying to piss off anybody, but they needed to be roped in a little bit. I think anybody that was playing a rogue and doing all these double jump shenanigans realized that at some point it was going to get nerfed. Like, no one should be surprised by this at all, right? And this isn't even like me like hating on rogues. I personally never really had a problem with them, even as they were. Like, this is not like a personal vendetta that I have against rogues or anything. I'm just looking at it from a pure like unbiased perspective of just balance in the game. The idea of double jump and the amount of movement shenanigans that they were able to apply from doing that was a little bit over the top as it compared to the movement of like everyone else. So this doesn't surprise me. Rogue's weak point attack now reduces target's armor rating by 40% instead of reducing their physical damage reduction. This is actually not bad. Not as bad as people think that it is. Because armor rating being reduced by 40% means that for the lower geared players, you're putting them into negative armor rating, which makes them take bonus damage. It probably works out for the vast majority of anyone that you would come across. This probably works out to be an overall buff as it compares to everyone else, unless you run into a cleric or you run into a fighter. But even then, when your fighters are all armor rating, and that's how their damage reduction is applied, this is probably still a bigger benefit to the rogue than just by saying, oh, we'll reduce physical damage reduction, right? Because they're all armor rating anyway. So I don't think that this is a bad thing. No, the armor rating can go negative. All of the ratings can. If you look at it on the wiki, all of the values are on a continuum. It can go negative. But either way, rogue can no longer equip the hand crossbow. So that one hurts. Yeah, I'll give you that. That one hurts. I'm going to assume that the reason why is because they could apply like bleeds and poisons and stuff to the hand crossbow bolt, so that when they fired the hand crossbow, now you have like a loaded bolt. I don't know. Maybe that's why, because you're applying status effects to the bolt, and maybe that was unintentional. Rogues naked have negative armor. There you go. That's how you become a skeleton. Negative armor rating. That's right. They do have. That's true. Rogues have throwing knives. That's true. Obviously, it's not going to have the travel time that a crossbow bolt does. Hand crossbows are also very, very strong. They hit very hard. Obviously bards can still use them. Kind of that's probably, I would say, like, as things go, that's probably one of the larger hits. And I know that I can already hear rogue players saying that they're going to be losing the ability to do any type of like ranged engagement. But the number of times that I've actually seen a rogue, like a comparable rogue, using a hand crossbow effectively, I can probably count on one hand. Like that, I mean, and I've got probably thousands of games, thousands of rounds at this point, and when I run into rogues, they're hiding in shadows and going invisible and trying to backstab you and the stuff that you would expect rogues to do. So I don't see this, just again, objectively speaking, I don't see this as being like as major of a hit for the larger player base as opposed to people that were using this mechanic to their benefit as much as they had been and now can't. Because I think that the number of players that are actually using a hand crossbow are probably pretty low. Fighter's taunt ability, physical damage reduction reduced from 15% to 10%. So this is fighters being nerfed on damage reduction, which again needed to happen. Fighters being nerfed on damage reduction is something that needed to happen. They just become way too tanky when they start stacking armor value. Physical damage reduction reduced from 15% to 10%. Barricade gives plus 50 armor rating in defensive position instead of plus 15% physical damage reduction. So plus 50 armor rating is much, much less for physical damage reduction than 15 flat percent. This plus 50 might give them like, what, 6 or 7%, I think, depending on where the armor rating curve goes now. Ranger's penetrating shot now grants 25% more armor penetration, and an error in the description text has been fixed. So penetrating shot got a massive buff. So now, like, one of Ranger's biggest issues was you needed to have a bow with very, very high damage in order to really feel like you were doing anything. And most people that had been playing Ranger, like Spuddy and stuff, were just like, fuck this, it's not even worth playing. I'm just going to do something else. This patch makes it look like Rangers are kind of getting brought back in a little bit. You know, they're getting a little pat on the back, like, sorry, you sucked for as long as you did, and now they're going to get some love. Because that's a huge bonus to damage. Bard's Din of Dankness. The Din of Darkness attribute damage ratio reduced from 10, 30, and 50% to 6, 9, and 12. Ooh, that one hurts. And again, it was necessary because Din of Darkness should not be melting entire teams in under 5 seconds, right? Like that was overpowered. There's no way anyone playing a Bard with Din of Darkness and plus spell damage could not say that was not overpowered. It absolutely was. It was way, way too strong. Through walls and floors and ceilings and the whole thing. Yeah. There ain't no way. Sacriel has on his Bard like plus 20 or plus 21 spell damage on his Bard, and he was just standing under people in bridges and just watching them melt. Like, it was ridiculous. It was memes. It was a running yakety sax track, right? Like it was like watching the opening of Benny Hill, just every single interaction. It was absurd. They're still super strong in team play though, because none of this has anything to do with spell regeneration rates or all of the stat buffs and the run speed buffs and the armor and magic resist buffs. Like, they're still walking buff machines that will still augment your team like through the roof, right? It's just they're not going to be able to like play little drummer boy and be like pum 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 and watch everybody fall over dead, right? Like that's the big difference. And it needed to happen. Bards are still going to be broken. Absolutely. Yeah. So now you end up being the buff machine that you always were, and you watch your teammates kill everyone. Like, oh, nuts, you know? No, you mean all I can do is like debuff everyone around me for like a shit ton of armor value and then watch my friends steamroll them? Darn. You know, like, you'll be fine. And be a luck bot so that my teammates all get way better gear rolls. Nuts. Like, that's horrible for you. I feel really bad. Okay. Explosive bottle and oil lantern now do magical damage instead of physical damage. So that, I mean, they make fire. It should never have been physical damage, which also meant, like, again, a fighter could just stand in the fire and be like, oh, this doesn't hurt. Instruments are now Bard only. Damn. So you mean like a barb can't pick up a drum and break down a door anymore? You know, sometimes you just want to have fun with things, you know, and they just, Terry, brother, Terrenold, listen, just give us this one thing, okay? Significantly reduce the values for physical damage reduction that appear as random attributes on items. So this is interesting. So physical damage reduction as a percentage. So on items, you could have physical damage reduction rolls as a stat attribute on any item. So you could get a ring that had physical damage reduction of 2.5%, right? Let's say that you had, there's what? Helmet, chest, 2 rings, neck, that's 5. Cloak is 6, boots is 7, gloves is 8. What, 8 items? So let's say that you had 8 items that had 2% physical damage reduction on them, right? That's 16% flat on top. So if you had 50% physical damage reduction from just the rest of your gear, like your normal armor, and then you had 2% on each armor piece, now you're up to 66% just from that, just from the extra items, which is ridiculous. And the max roll, I think, on them was 3. It was like 3%, right? On just like green quality items, you could get like a 3% physical damage reduction roll. Same thing with magic. You could get the same thing. And then I think on blues, it went up to like 3.5%, and then purples is 4. That was absurd. And you could get crazy damage reduction values on that because it was just on the top, like flat percentages. Significantly reduce the values for physical damage reduction that appears random attributes on items. That is huge. So I don't know by how much. But they said significantly, so maybe the max roll now is going to be like 1. Maybe it's 1%. So now you're going to talk about like decimal percentage increases. Falchion damage has been slightly reduced, I would guess by like probably a few points, because falchions were like 1 point off of longswords, which didn't make any sense because you could just bring a falchion and have a slightly faster swing and a much faster run speed. And then the only benefit that you got from a longsword was using parry, and the parry really wasn't all that great, or isn't all that great, because the tracers are kind of fucky. So there was really no point in bothering with a longsword, if you ask me, because you move slower, and yeah, you might hit like this much harder, but not really. And bards do work with falchions, and warlocks do work with falchions, but warlocks do work with falchions because of spell damage from their Q attack, and probably still will regardless of what they're holding in their damn hand, because that thing hits hard as hell. Windless crossbow has 25% armor penetration, so they added 25% armor pen to the crossbow. The normal crossbow has 20% armor pen, so this, again, to combat fighters, which makes sense. The hand crossbow has 5% armor pen. Yay, Bard. Flanged mace and Morningstar have 15% armor pen. War Maul has 30% armor pen. Dude, Ball Plart, Mall Cop. There's going to be some stuff going on in the dungeon, boys. Ball Plart, Mall Cop. He's coming to town, I'm telling you. Magic Staff has magical damage by default. W. Dude, that is probably the biggest dub in the whole list. Right there. Starting item for clerics, wizards, and warlocks. The starting magic staff item for clerics, wizards, and warlocks will by default now have magical damage applied to it. It's a dark gray item, right? It's not even like a gray quality spell book. So my guess is the magical damage on the magic staff will be like 1. It'll probably be like 1 point, maybe 2, but I'm guessing it's 1 point on the starting item. But even 1 point of extra magic damage when you're talking like a wizard using magic missile is crazy different. That means that's the difference between firing a full volley into the face of a mummy, like minion, and it not dying because you have to hit it one more time with a staff because you just don't do enough damage, or having that 1 point of damage, adding that 1 point to the magic missiles that would actually make the mummy die. So that's huge. That is a massive, massive difference. Just that little bit. Reduce the base projectile damage reduction values for plate armors. Interesting. So again, buffing a passive buff for rangers and other fighters that are using crossbows. But this also would apply to other projectiles like axes and throwing knives. So this is actually like a good passive buff for ranged classes, and as well as being a nerf for plate wearers. So cleric's not nearly going to be as tanky anymore. Although the 3 points of damage reduction as a talent is still massive. Yeah, huge swathing changes, man. That is a lot. It appears that the wipe does include character names. This is right from the just a little copy pasta from the Discord. One of the head mods on the Discord said, whoever talked to me about that, wipe includes character names. There you go. So, but that was yesterday at noon. So I don't know if that means the season 1 wipe or if this is tomorrow's wipe, but I would expect that, I guess, character names will be wiped. So for anybody wondering, we will reiterate this one more time. The question was whether or not character names, meaning the characters that you have already established, will be wiped from the game or if they will be kept. The answer is all characters will be wiped. So you will start off with a clean slate. You will have no characters on your character sheet. You will have to remake any of your characters from the void. Okay, cool. Yeah, that looks like everything. I think that's all of our notes. That's it.